Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to another live here. If you're on, can you just let me know if you can hear me or not? Make sure that the audio is on. So just saying hello. Hi, Pam. Hi, Chris. Hi, Allie. Hi, Zoe. Can you guys let me know if you can hear me? Yep. Okay, great. Awesome. I am in a cabin in Lake Tahoe right now. So you can see the lake right there. I am excited to share something today. It's completely different than the last couple of videos, which were more of energy updates. This is a piece of our history. And the reason I wanted to share it, it's about how we've connected to the galactic beings or the light beings, star beings. There's so many different names that we have, but how we connected in a historical part of humanity, and how we are now reconnecting with them in that same way. And the power of this reconnection right now. So many of us are reconnecting with our families of light, the galactics, that's part of what we're here to do. But there was a time in our history around 8 to 5,000 years ago where we had this same opportunity, where the veils were very thin and the beings were able to access us much easier. So I wanted to share a little bit about that time and how it relates to now and the why, and how we can begin to open ourselves more to these beings. So, shall we begin? This is a part of the book. So I'm writing a book on the history, so to speak, even though it's all happening in the now, but the history of how Earth began and how humanity began millions of years ago, and the entire journey that Earth and humanity has been on, and all the other beings, animal kingdom and plant kingdom and all of that. So it's a massive book, but it's almost done. So take this with a grain of salt. It may resonate, it may not resonate, okay? But around 15,000 years ago, the Earth shifted down from a 5D field or fifth dimensional vibration into a third dimensional vibration. And I'm not going to go into the details of how or why yet. I'll do that in another video, but it shifted down. And so around 20,000 years ago, again, time is irrelevant because it all happened in the now. But for our space-time continuum that's linear in 3D, it happened around 15 to 20,000 years ago, somewhere around there. And Earth began her new ascension path, which was moving from a 3D vibration into a 5D. And so basically, very slowly, she began to increase her vibration in her form. And the human form slowly began to increase their vibration. Slowly and slowly and slowly. And there is a universal law that is held with all the different beings that are playing in Earth's experiment and Earth herself. And this universal law is that when she hits the 50% light quotient, the ascension is a go, a green light, meaning that lower dimensional energies and frequencies can't pull her back down into a lower dimension or vibration. So, and this also means that the beings that are supporting us, that we are, right, these higher dimensional beings that we are, all the different galactics, angelics, and all of them have easier access to us. They can begin to participate with us in a much easier way when we get to that 50% mark, when Earth gets to that 50% mark, which means that she is holding 50% more light than she was holding when she originally began again in a 3D field. This happened around 8,000 to 5,000 years ago. This was around the time when Egypt was beginning. This is when all of and many of the sacred sites were beginning to form. And what happened around the beings of light, the higher dimensional beings that we hold within ourselves, that we are, were a gamut of different types of consciousnesses, right? But the higher dimensional realms, beings, galactics, star systems, angelic realms, collectives, whatever you want to call them, they began to come in and participate with us tangibly and physically. They began to assist us. This was around the 48% mark of light quotient. So it wasn't yet at 50, it was around 48%. And what occurred was they began to come in for the sole purpose of shifting us into that 50% mark. So they were going to come in and work with us as human forms, and assist us in holding these higher vibrations, very similar to what we're doing right now, and pushing us over this 50% mark, okay? And they would create and design physically with the humans these sacred sites, okay? And they were all over the world. The pyramids, Machu Picchu, Stonehenge, the pyramids down in the Mexico, like Central America and Mexico, like Cancun area, and that whole like peninsula area has a huge amount of sacred sites. They're all over the world, okay? They were not designed by the human. They were designed by these higher dimensional beings. We were not these higher dimensional beings. We were the human form. Maybe you were the higher dimensional being participating as that higher dimensional being. You may have been that dimensional consciousness coming down in and assisting the human. But the human, this form in 3D, did not design and create those sacred sites. We, the humans, were interacting and engaging with higher dimensional beings at that time. So what we're doing right now, what we're remembering how to do, what we're learning in terms of connecting with these beings, we've already done. We've done this before. These higher dimensional beings created and basically energetically called humans to these sacred sites to learn, to teach, to upgrade. And this was happening very physically. So how we're experiencing these beings right now are much more energetic, not as tangible as it was 5,000 to 8,000 years ago. These higher dimensional beings were able to move their vibration down and chose to move their vibration down to move into this third dimensional consciousness so that the human could engage and so that these beings could create these civilizations. So there were many civilizations that were beginning at that time where the human was starting to hold a higher vibrational consciousness. Very similar to what we're doing right now. Now, what was occurring at the exact same time was that fourth dimensional beings were also able to begin to access us easier. There was a grid that was put around the earth plane when she started as in 3D. It was a fifth dimensional grid for the sole purpose of keeping out fourth dimensional beings that were designed and created when Earth was in a 5D form. I'm not going to go into the details of how these beings were created, but they were created by higher dimensional consciousnesses like Orion and the Anunnaki and many other dimensional consciousnesses created 4D races. When that 5D grid opened and the higher dimensional consciousnesses began to access us, so too did the fourth dimensional beings. And this is the time when these beings came in and the hybridization program started, the abduction program started, and they began to infiltrate the human. And so what happened, and this happened in a now moment, this happened quite quickly, but for the human, it was a long time span because we live in a linear time frame. What happened was literally the light began to war or combat the dark. Not physically, like not through physical wars. Energetically, the light beings were trying to increase the human's vibration, increase these civilizations' vibrations. And these fourth dimensional beings were infiltrating and taking over and consuming. And so the higher dimensional beings pulled out. Because what they were noticing was, one, these higher dimensional beings don't war, they don't go to battle, they don't fight, they don't hold that consciousness. And so as they were watching what was occurring, that which was for the highest good of all involved was for them to pull out and wait. Because what was happening was these fourth dimensional races were coming in and literally destroying these civilizations that were beginning to increase their vibration. And these civilizations are all over the world. These sacred sites are still all over the world. And there's many, many sites that have been destroyed, but there are still the foundational blocks. There's many, they call them StarGates all over the world. And these StarGates were portals. And these higher dimensional beings opened these StarGates, physical StarGates up. And it created an access point for the 3D human and the higher dimensional being to come together and connect, communicate, work, learn, teach, all of it. So not to go into the history of what occurred for the next 5,000 years, although I'm sure you can understand or imagine, these fourth dimensional races took over, right? And because the Earth was only at a 48% light quotient, began to pull the energy, the light down, right? And many of you came in, including many ascended masters. Jesus came in around this time, right? Many of you came in as light workers or way showers around this time to assist the increase in vibrational rate of the Earth and humanity out of what was happening, which was the dark pull down, right? Now, these fourth dimensional races, they're just being their consciousness. They're just being them. So it's not that they were doing anything wrong. They just didn't necessarily have the highest good of the human and Earth in their signature. They were just doing what they were wanting to experience. So many of you as light workers came in at that time to start to assist in pulling the vibration back into this 50% mark, which didn't happen until the 80s. Seriously? Took that long. So, but it happened quickly if you're in a now moment. So from the higher perspective, from these higher dimensional beings, it happened right away. From the human, it took thousands of years. So what's happening right now is very similar to what happened 5,000 to 8,000 years ago. We are starting to open and reconnect. Because what happened was eventually there were enough of us that came in and that were already here, pulling and assisting the light so that these fourth dimensional beings didn't recreate another fall from grace, which was what happened when Earth fell from 5 to 4 to 3D. We came in, or whoever you were, to assist in pulling. And many of you came in over and over again to continue to pull and hold and assist. Many of you did battle, right? Many of you that are afraid to open, are afraid to channel and allow yourself to connect to the higher dimensional realms. A lot of the reason that you have that fear is because you were on the planet at this time when there was chaos, when there were fourth dimensional races literally infiltrating the human body. Now, these races are not infiltrating the human body in the same way right now. Any human that is participating with fourth dimensional races are doing so consciously or unconsciously by choice, because these beings are no longer in our field. They were kicked off the earth plane. They were kicked off. They were literally pulled out, sucked out energetically, and it took a very long time. For a human life, for humans, it took a long time. It happened right away, again, in a now moment. But they were excavated off the earth plane and off the field, out of the field. However, the reptilian races brought themselves into and became a human form in 3D. And so they were the last to be suction cupped out energetically. But humans that are experiencing 4D races currently are doing so, again, consciously or unconsciously, by choice and by inviting it and having a participation like a bridge, right? And there will be humans that are like, well, I am experiencing that and I'm not choosing. Well, there's an aspect of you that's choosing, because nothing happens as a victim. There's no haphazard things that are occurring. Everything is occurring by choice, whether you're conscious of it or not. The point is that they are off the earth plane and the earth field. They're accessible because they're in a fourth dimensional field and we live in a quantum space. So anyone can access them, but they're not infiltrating us anymore. There's no abduction and hybridization programs in the way that they were before. And this started to really slow down around the 1920s. Okay. So right now, many of us are really waking up to this desire, this need, this knowingness that you can, you have, and you really want to reconnect to the higher realms, the galactics, the star beings, the angelics. And if you were on the earth plane 5, 6, 7,000 years ago onward, you may have experienced an opening or a desire to bring in and expand and pull in higher dimensional energies and consciousnesses. And at the same time, you brought in these races. But what is important for us to understand right now is that we are being called to open. We are being called to keep the crown wide open so that we can begin to step into who we are designed to be with the assistance of these beings, just like they did 5,000, 8,000 years ago. It's not to say that you can't do it by yourself, but most of us didn't design this to be done by ourselves. We are fogged in a third dimensional field of consciousness. No matter how high you raise your vibration, you're still swimming in density for a while. And so when you start awakening, you start to remember, you're tapping into the grids that the earth holds, which is every now moment that has ever been experienced on her, which is occurring now. So when you start turning on energetically, electrically, you start to connect to that grid. And when you connect to that grid, you start to remember lifetimes. And when you start to remember other lifetimes, you start to remember the experiences you had, and they feel real in this now. It's like it gets foggy, like, wait, was this now or was this then, right? So when we start to open and expand, opening the crown, and there's fears or worry or nervousness or any of that, remember that that is not in this now experience, unless you choose to play in that, unless you choose to create and be in that paradigm, which is completely your choice. We have free will. But it's not a necessity. That's not a paradigm that is an absolute. That is not a paradigm or a reality or a program that is the only reality. We are designed as higher dimensional consciousness is in 3D forms to keep the crown wide open and to begin to connect with these beings 24/7, all the time, so that they can assist us and we can assist ourselves in continuing to increase our vibration, raise our frequency, and move into the next dimensional field. As well as the form. Why did you say yes to this? Why are you here? They can assist us in remembering this. We can assist us in remembering this as we continue to take one step in front of the other. Right? And so right now, it's imperative to remember that this is a historical point in our history, just like 5,000 years ago. The beings are not physically coming down yet. They are being more cautious, so to speak, meaning that they are tiptoeing their way into our field and doing it in a more gentle manner as opposed to what happened 5,000 years ago when they were in and physically with us. The key to beginning to connect is to trust everything that comes through you. Everything. Because what happens when we begin to connect to that which we can't tangibly hold is we don't trust it. We look for outside validation to tell us that what we are feeling, hearing, seeing, or thinking is correct. And we can't wait for that. This is imperative as we step into 2020. This is the now moment where we literally are beginning to walk side by side, holding hands energetically to these higher dimensional realms. The galactics, the higher dimensional consciousnesses that are holding themselves in collectives, federations that you're working with, the angelic realm, ascended masters, Lemurians, dragons, you name it. It goes on and on and on. But we have gotten ourselves to a vibration and a frequency on the earth plane where the veils are thinning and we are remembering again that we can do this. If you were on the earth plane millions of years ago when she was in a fifth dimensional vibration and field, and the physical form was in a fifth dimensional vibration and field, you remember that when you dropped into that 5D body, you were aligned and connected. Your seventh energy center was open. It didn't close. It had no need or desire to close. You see, the reason that the seventh energy center is closed for so many of us in the third dimensional form is because the density is so intense here that to keep this open when we first come in can be almost so overwhelming that we can't function. We have to learn and tiptoe into this dimensional space, into all of the massive amounts of consciousness that's experienced in the third dimension. The spectrum is much larger in the 3D than it is in the 5D, meaning there is much more to be experienced. And so when your crown is wide open, you're allowing yourself to just experience all of it. But when you are new to the 3D form and you are not quite sure how it all works, and you're so dense that you forget who you are, that thing closes right up. You drop in and you're in such density and fog, you forget that you even decided to come in the form. All you know is that you're in a density that is so intense and overwhelming. The sounds, the lights, the energies, the frequencies, right? When you look at a newborn baby, you can tell that it's like, it's in overwhelm, right? All it's doing is like eyes wide open, just looking at everything. It's an overdrive of like, what the hell, right? Now, as we ascend and hold higher frequencies, we are realigning to our channel. We are remembering how this works. We remember that we're sovereign, meaning that we have our own signature vibration around us that keeps us safe. And crown open. When you close the crown, you're closing your connection and alignment to all that is around you. And there are many paradigms that tell you you're not safe. But I'm here to tell you that you are safe because you're moving into a 5D consciousness. 5D consciousness doesn't hold fear. And you're designed to expand and open and do this in all the density. So what we want to begin to do, for those of you that are just stepping into this, or for those of you that have been doing this, meaning connecting, communicating, stepping up and working with, holding hands with, right? This includes higher self as well. You begin to remember that this family of light, these guides, these beings, even if you don't know who they are right in front of you right now. That's step one. They're in front of you. They always have been, just in a different dimension. So you can't see them. Many times you can't feel them. Why? Because you're so distracted and numbed out in your own 3D consciousness that you don't stop, breathe, and feel. So if you just stopped every day and sat and did nothing but sit and feel, you would begin to feel them. But we are so distracted by anything and everything. In fact, the last thing most of us want to do is sit. And I'm not talking about meditation. I'm talking just sit and stare at something. You will feel it. And you'll feel it more and more and more. And then you start to remember. And then you start to engage. And then you open up your crown. And then you invite them into your space more. And then you start to talk to them like they're here in front of you, like you're having lunch with them. And you invite them to the table. They're real. They're just as real as this. They're just as real as this lighter. You just can't see them. They're just as real. So you can imagine from their perspective, they're watching us, right? And they understand dimensions. They understand the veils that are separating us from them in terms of consciousness and frequency. But it would be like you're a higher dimensional consciousness and you're looking at the human, and the human is walking around with blindfolds on saying, where's my team? Where's my higher self? Where are my guides? I'm all alone. And meanwhile, they're right there. But the human is just walking around thinking that they're all by themselves. Where is my team? I'm not connected. I can't hear anything. I can't see anything. And meanwhile, they're like, we're right here. We're right here. We're right here. Anytime you ask, they answer. Anytime you ask, they answer. It's just a matter of us as humans in a very dense consciousness learning how to surrender into the space and feel. Because it all is energy. And because they're not coming down the way they did 5,000 years ago, unfortunately, not right now, we're going to have a little bit of a hard time. We're going to have to stretch and begin to play in imagination. The imagination is your third eye. Activating and accessing your third eye is allowing imagination to show you the dimensional realms. So if you want to play with your third eye, let your imagination show you things with your eyes closed. And there's a lot of frustration and angst and other emotions that come up when we begin to do this. But we have to go through that in order to continue and to step into the communication that we've designed to do right now. Because you see, if you remember, you created this team that is around you right now. You created them before you jumped into form. And so they're here to serve you. And they're just waiting patiently. The biggest thing you can do for yourself is know this and remember this and consciously remind yourself of this all day long. The more you shift into higher states of consciousness, the easier this becomes because you're shifting up. They're already in these higher frequencies. They do bring themselves down a little bit, right? But you have to meet in the middle. When we feel loneliness, it's almost like this access point it's like you're getting so close to remembering who's around you, right? So we start to tap into this feeling of being so alone, nobody around me. And yet, if we just allow that experience to be had, if we just sit with that and let it be without judgment, there is a golden nugget underneath it that is the remembrance and the hearing and feeling and experiencing of these beings. Because when you are in your depth, the darkest spaces, right? Curled up, crying, fearful, whatever that is, they're louder. You hear something. You're going to be okay. We've got you. We're right here. We love you, right? You've had those moments, maybe. And it's brief, but it's when you're in your darkest spaces. And at the same time, whatever experience you're having, you also want to hold the knowingness that they are there. And guess what? You get to have all your human emotions around it. You get to have all the human emotions of whatever comes up. But this is where we are historically and evolving into. This is the consciousness that we are stepping into. And that we've already done. That many of you have already done. In many different forms. So many of you have dropped in as a human form and experienced that chaos. Many of you dropped in as light beings and were experiencing it from a higher realm. And perhaps both. Many of you may have stayed in the ships, the platforms, the collective consciousnesses that you existed in and watched it unravel. This is the history that we have all seen. This is the history that played out that we all know. And here we are right now, 2019. Time is so irrelevant, but for us, we're in this slow time-space continuum. Here we are, 2019. We are about to step into a very massive year. A massive opportunity. And we're remembering. And there is so much activity around us in the higher dimensional realms, in every dimension. And there's nothing unique about it. There's nothing special about it, right? It's like they're not special. They're us. It's not like, oh my God, I have to bow to these beings, or oh my God, I have to look up to them, or how do you speak to them, or How do you engage? They're so powerful. They're so, look at your mom and dad and think, oh my God, they're so amazing. They're my mom and dad. No, it's my mom, it's my dad. These beings need to be seen that same way. You know, we are remembering these galactics and ETs and aliens and all of this disclosure and all these things. And yet all it is aspects of us that have played parts. They're just continuing to play their roles while we play our roles in form. It's even ground, it's even playing field, right? They're just choosing to be in that space. They didn't choose to come into the form. And we chose to come into the form. So begin to listen more. Listen to the whispers. Listen to the voice that sounds like you, but isn't you. This is the other thing, you guys. They aren't going to sound like some loud, it's not going to sound like some loud man or woman from some other space coming in with this blowhorn. They don't speak language. They don't talk. And they definitely don't use words. Words are third dimensional. It's energy. First and foremost, it's energy. And then you digest it in your channel and you figure out how you experience it and understand it. So you got to feel it. You got to stop your life and sit. They're all around us all the time. So if you get quiet and move, and you have to move into the body, you've got to be in your body. That is where the information, communication, that would be like trying to have a conversation on your phone and your phone is in a different house. You got to be where the phone is in order to have the conversation. The phone is your body and you've got to be in the body. How do you get in the body? You feel your body. You find your breath. Where's my breath? There it is. There's many reasons we have breath, but one of the reasons we have a breath is because it anchors you straight into your body. So just because you open up your crown doesn't mean that you go and expand into these higher states. You stay in the body to channel the information. You stay in the body to connect to these beings. You stay in your body, you get heavy, you get dense, meaning you get in the form. You don't move out of the body and expand beyond your form to communicate. So many of you may be saying, I can't feel anything, I can't hear anything. Are you in your body? Can you feel your toes? Can you feel your ankles? Can you feel your kneecaps? Can you feel your thighs? Can you feel your stomach, your chest, your rib cage, your spine? Can you feel your body? Because that's the phone. That's the signal. Everything gets digested into your form. That's why we're clearing so much. What we're clearing is consciousness that we've consumed in the form. And so connecting to these beings is the same thing. And all these different consciousnesses communicate very differently. It just depends, right? So it depends on their vibration. It depends on how high they are in dimensional fields. It depends on how you digest it and what multidimensional senses you use that are most comfortable for you in the beginning. And sometimes you won't know that until you begin to feel these frequencies. And you feel these frequencies by sitting and opening the crown, grounding into your body and inviting them into your space, even though they're already here. And then you begin to have conversations, even though it feels weird and crunchy and odd. And you begin to remember that this is what you've designed yourself to do in this now moment as you continue to expand into higher states of consciousness. And these are beings that could be many different things. So these beings could be your family of light, which is basically what people would also call their star families or their galactic families, which means that it is the consciousness that you existed as before you dropped into form. And it's the light being that you are that is in the body. So it's holding that same consciousness, just a small percentage of it, because the physical form could only hold so much. It could be a galactic team or a federation or a collective that you have chosen to work with as you are in the form. It could be guides that you have designed to work with that could be a gamut of an ascended master, an angelic being, a dragon, a star being. It could be you could have a group of them, and the guides change as you change and evolve. So it could be a lot of different beings, right? What's really important is not the details of it right away. What's important is just feeling the energy and beginning to open yourself to it. Forget about the names, forget about who they are in the beginning, because that's going to block you. That's the ego coming in saying, I want to control this. I want to understand this. And if we do this, we're going to do it my way, which is, who are you? And how do I know you? And where did you come from? And no, 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 no. Higher self is going to say, hey, sweetheart, chill out and just be for a moment so that you can tap into this energetically. Let's take this one step at a time. Let's take baby steps. Now, 5,000 years ago, we didn't have to do this. They just came in. We energetically were pulled to them in these different places around the world. You either kind of got that energetic call. It was basically like an energetic signal that went out. And the human form picked up on that signal, and all of a sudden they were like, I feel like I have to go to this space or this place, this mountain, this land. And then the humans started going there, not really knowing why. And then they collected, and it became a group, a community, a civilization all of a sudden, right? But it's because these galactics or higher dimensional beings put out a signal. They were already there. They already created all of it. We, unfortunately, are doing it in a not so tangible way right now, but it's the same thing. You know, they're there with this signal, answering us, connecting with us, communicating with us. And we are starting to feel that signal, but we're dense and we have to push through those dimensional fields. So the point of coming on, they pulled out. So the reason that they stopped coming in, if you go back to the beginning of this video, I explain it a little bit, but they were coming in at the same time that the fourth dimensional races were coming in. And so what ended up happening was there was this battle, this pull. You know, they were higher dimensional consciousness, so it was this light that was pulling humanity, and yet the fourth dimensional races were pulling back. And it was an energetic battle that these beings don't participate in. And because they understand free will and they abide by free will, they stepped out to allow free will to unfold and not have to be in that battle, right? And again, this all happened in a now moment. It all was like boom, 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 now, 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 but we felt it in thousands of years. You can visualize, like literally start to just play with and have fun with, having lunch with them, having dinner with them, having breakfast with them. Like, what would that look like? What would that feel like? Be in that. You've got to play in imagination in order to step into the different dimensions. You gotta have fun. You gotta let the lights move around you, the colors move around you, the body vibrate, the body tingle. the weird things happening around you, right? You got to allow that, open to it. And you got to choose, because these higher dimensional beings, again, they honor free will. They are not going to interfere. They're always there. When you call, they answer. Always. It's quite awesome, actually, because you guys all know this. I'm just reminding you, right? Just a remembrance. Oh, yeah. I know she's right because I remember, but I'm really annoyed and frustrated because it's not happening for me. Okay, if that's you, right, saying that, consciously choose every day out loud to connect to them, because they're with you. So every day you wake up and you say, I am consciously, actively choosing to be with you, communicate with you, connect with you from this point forward in every single one of my nows. And I'm allowing it to unfold however it's going to unfold. And I'm still giving myself the grace, the ease, the compassion, and love to have all my human emotions around it. 5 hours later, I am opening to knowing that you guys are with me and surrounding me and connecting with me. Meanwhile, you don't hear anything, you don't feel anything, you don't see anything. It doesn't mean you stop. You stopping is like having a temper tantrum in kindergarten and you're crossing your hands. You're like, I'm not going to go out and play because it doesn't look the way I want the playground to look. I want the playground to look a specific way before I go out. Well, it's not going to. Do you still want to stay with your hands crossed, or do you want to go out and play and see what happens? Choose to go out and play. I guarantee you, if you continue to just stay open, literally and physically open, and consciously choosing to connect, even if you don't have the experience you want to have, and then you sit quietly for every day, just sit quietly for a few minutes, feel energy, even if it's your own energy, feel energy. Get out of your mind and get into your energy. You'll feel them. It's impossible not to. It's impossible not to. So don't worry about hearing them necessarily, right? Receiving messages and guidance right away. Just feel. Feel, feel, feel. Feel your own energy. How am I feeling right now? What does my body feel like? Because this process is also going to help you as you continue to consciously ascend, right? You're going to get real clear, real fast on where you are energetically, to not judge it, but to just feel it. Like, oh my God, today, this is the energy I'm feeling. You know what I mean? We're so hard on ourselves and we take it so seriously. And it makes sense too, because we're in a density that's really intense. You know, there's days where it's massively intensive and there's days where it's fun and light. But when it comes to these beings, have fun, play. Open yourself to it, right? Like, it's not serious. Don't take it seriously. Don't take it seriously. And if you have fears, recognize that those fears most likely are either from somebody else telling you how it's going to be in their experience and not your experience, or you're tapping into a lifetime you had back then, or any now moment from that point forward where they were coming in and the fourth dimensional races were coming in. And it was chaotic. It was chaos. That time period, that time frame, 8,000 to 5,000 years ago, up until around, I don't know, 90 years ago, was the most intense in the third dimension. It was really, really insane. It was chaos. And it required so many light workers and way showers, star seeds, whatever you want to call them, to come in. And do you know the courage it took for you as a light worker or a way shower or a starseed, whatever you want to name it, to come in at that time, it was way more intense than it is right now. Way more intense. Which is why you had a lot of ascended masters walking the earth plane in physical form. Literally showing the human who they are. Reminding the human. Anyway, you guys, hope this was useful. The reason that they wanted me to share this with you guys is because really, let's courageously and playfully open to them. We all have done it before. If you've been in human form, you all know how to do it. You've all been designed to do it, meaning it's designed in the form to do this. Your physical form is designed to do it, and it is the time. It's never been more primed than it is right now. And you don't have to be a certain person. You don't have to speak a certain way. You don't have to hold a certain vibration. You don't. It's your birthright. You just get to do it now. Stay open. Invite in. Have a conversation. Next time you're in a car driving somewhere, invite the beings into the front seat or the back seat. Start to have a conversation with them. Why not? Out loud. Who cares? Why not? And then anything you hear, anything you feel, anything you see, you say yes to. You agree. You say, yep, that's what I received. Yep, that's truth. Yep, that's real. Yes, that's real. It's just as real as this lighter. It's just that this lighter is much denser. And so it seems more real than energy. It's not. This is just energy condensed down into a lighter. So say yes to everything that comes in over and over and over and over again. Choose. You get a choice. Am I going to believe it or not? Why would you not believe it? And why make your life more difficult? Believe it. So when you find yourself saying, is this true? Is this real? Why would it be difficult? What's the challenge or the difficulty or why would you not say yes? Yes, I'm going to say yes, it's real. I'm going to say yes. It takes a while to start to really believe it, but you have to start saying yes. When the star beings or the galactic beings started coming in, for me, it was in January of 2018. And I just started feeling this energy around me. I started hearing things coming into my mind that sounded like me, right? Like my ego or my higher self, but it was different. It was a different vibrational voice. I got curious. And that curiosity allowed me to engage with it. And then I chose to sit with it and ask this, whatever this was, to come in over and over and over. And then I just listened intently. Even when I heard nothing, I still listened. And even to this day right now, right, almost 2 years later, it's not an obvious, loud conversation. It's a faint knowingness. It's a way of communicating that is not tangible. It's quiet. It's soft. It's confusing at times. So it's not a direct, obvious, voice or form of communication that we're used to for many of us. Yeah, they smile, they play, they laugh, they love, they honor us, they hold us, they hug us. energetically. They're right there. They upgrade us, they activate us, they heal us, they do all of that. Just like they did 5, 6, 7,000 years ago. All right, we're coming up to the hour mark, so I will jump off. But I didn't decide to make this video. They wanted me to. So this is not me choosing this. This is them wanting to get this message to you guys. To you, whoever's watching this, whoever's listening to this, it's for you. The message is for you. I didn't need to share this. They needed to share it. And if you're listening, you are ready to step deeper into it or begin or remember. All right? All right, you guys. Thank you so much for showing up. Time went by so fast. I love you all so much. I am so grateful that we're doing this together, that we have this platform to connect with live. Like, we get to talk to each other and support each other and just connect. It's like we don't feel like we're, soldiers marching alone on this marsh by ourselves in the dark, right? So I appreciate every single one of you. Every single one of you. And if you missed the live because you didn't get a notification, you have to subscribe to the channel, and then you have to click the little bell next to the subscribe, and then it will start to send you notifications once I go live, because I've been going live just within giving 15 or 20 minute notice. So that's a really great way to do it. Subscribe and then click the bell button. And if you want more support, I've got the Patreon online community. We just did a live mini session today, and that's a great place to connect as well and be a part of a group that's going through this. And I'll see you guys whenever I jump on live again, whenever that is. So enjoy, play with these beings around you that you created, that you asked and designed to be with you now, that you're capable of. And just remember, when you ask, they answer. So don't think that they aren't hearing you or answering, and don't get upset with yourself if you don't hear. Or if you get upset with yourself, be gentle with yourself, okay? It's all unraveling naturally. I love you. I'll see you next time. Give yourself a big hug. Okay, bye.